I'm working on this big project of 208 paintings of the four seasons. It was something I started in 2002 in France, when I was in France for an extended period, working at a place that one of my collectors put together, a studio he put together down there for people to work whose art he collected. Well, that's it. That's the hill. That's the location at the top of the hill where these are the buildings. But I was right on the top of that hill with that kind of circular 360-degree view, and I was basically looking down onto the terrain and making observations about how the land was changing on an hourly basis, particularly when the farmers were at their peak, doing all their work in the spring and the autumn in particular, where they were churning up the land all the time.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it was magic, and
what a great place to paint. What a great place to be.
And it was just captivating and beautiful. And so I was looking down onto the land, and that's kind of behind a lot of my paintings anyway, looking at nature. So something I was looking at in the morning would be very different in the afternoon, and that was part of the fun. That was really enjoyable to have the same bit that I was looking at in a completely different, see it in a completely different way a few hours later. So that was part of it as well. Talking about how you zoom in to the surface of the terrain and start looking at something in a more abstract way. What I'm really doing is, here's your view. You know, I'm not interested in painting a landscape, but if you start putting your emphasis on the detail of the landscape,
you crop it out.
That's kind of what you end up with when you're looking down. And that's what I was doing. I wasn't interested in any horizons. If I had done that,
that's more.
Suddenly it becomes a landscape.
I mean, just too literal.
Just by nature, that would become a landscape. But I didn't want a landscape. I want a landscape without the scape.
Yeah.
Just the land. You know.
Exactly. I see what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, look at some of those diagonals. The way that kind of suddenly becomes my painting.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, all these great compositions with totally abstract when you look at it that way, if you want to look at it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at that over there.
Yeah.
You'll find that in one of those paintings, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great.
And sometimes a clump of bushes or trees, I would include that, but they would not be trees, they would just be color. And so that eventually this becomes about other things. It becomes about the paint and the different kinds of paint.
It becomes about color, it becomes about these shapes in the land.
Yeah,
it becomes...
and some of the shapes repeat through the seasons because we're looking at the same terrain at different times of the year. I just love the vibrancy of it in spring. It was just so bouncy with all the yellow and the lavender color.
Yeah.
And it was certainly there in France. The vibrancy was incredible because a strong sense of lots of reds and lots of lavender, of course. It was lavender.
Right. It's like you've taken a telephoto lens.
It's like zooming in.
It's like zooming in.
It's like zooming in.
And you've taken 52 snapshots of the land per season.
Exactly right.
So now you have 208 pictures.
Yes.
Abstracted, zoomed in pictures of the land in all these four seasons. And it spans over 20 years of time.
Well, yes, I wasn't working on it over 20 years. They were stranded there. To cut a long story short, I started it in 2002, and then all kinds of things happened, and it got stranded over there. So everything I had started was left in France for 20 years.
And this space is the first time you've seen them like laid out all at once.
Yes, it's great having this space, although it's not ideal, but I've actually, for the first time ever, I've seen all these together.
Yeah.
In my studio upstairs, there's not enough room to do this, so I have to work on them in sections. I managed to get them all back at the end of 2024, and I spent 2025 working on filling in the gaps in spring and autumn in particular, and a few of summer. But I had never done winter. I was not in France in the winter. There was no heating in the venue, and I was not there. So 22 years later, I decide to finish the winter season here in New York. But I did want the main part of winter to be different. Obviously a different palette altogether. And it is so many years later that I was doing this, and so I have a completely different approach to how I do things now compared to 2002. So that's reflected in this winter piece. Obviously there's this kind of a coldness. I saw a cold palette and I saw shadows. So it's nothing to do with snow, it's to do with, again, the mood of winter. The damage that you see on the land in the winter, lots of fractured wood and foliage. It's all kind of, the mood of winter is a kind of a broken season, I often feel. You know, that winter, there's a lot of damage in the terrain, and it's kind of harsh and somewhat bleak. In each season, on the lower part of the 52 paintings, the lower horizontal row,
sort of reference the previous.
There's a reference to the previous season in all of it. Yeah, with maybe the exception of spring. Spring doesn't have any reference to winter.
Yeah.
But summer has a reference to spring, autumn has a reference to summer, and winter has a reference to autumn.
Yeah. And so with autumn, the last remnants of summer, the greens and the fading colors are at the bottom, and then it becomes more and more red and golden as it goes.
And I would love to see this project in a very large square room with one season on each wall and a bench in the middle of the room, so you can just sit with it and absorb it. And you change position and just look at each season. No other information on the wall, no labels or anything. Just the experience of the color and the paint and the mood of this with no other distractions, with the right lighting. It's a tall order. It's hard to find the perfect location, but you know, when these are on a wall, I liked the idea of the season progressing upwards.
Yeah.
Some people have said, well, why didn't you do it the other way around, progressing downwards? And I don't know the answer to that. I just wanted to do...
That's your way of doing it.
I wanted to do it going up.
Yeah.
So that the real intensity of the season was at the top for some reason. And I also have this other aspect to it, which is kind of arbitrary, but in each season I have these blank or one tone, one color panels, which aren't worked. That was just an arbitrary decision. I just liked the idea of having some empty space.
Yeah.
Because, again, going back to this whole idea of zooming in on things, there are plenty of moments where there wasn't anything, really, except just the land, just the ground. So I love this shape, this horizontal shape, very nice proportions. And I thought, well, I wonder how I can make a square and how many that would take and how big it would be. There I was, and I eventually discovered that a 10-foot square was 52 paintings if it was 4 across horizontally and 13 down.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking, oh my God, 52 paintings, 4 across, 13 down, 52 weeks in a year, 4 seasons, 13 is about 3 months. And I'm thinking, that's it. That's it. Spring through autumn I was there. And I was in the local town and I stumbled upon this mystery garden tour called Enigmatus. And I liked that name, Enigmatus. And it was all about nature. And I was making these paintings about the land just a few miles away up on this hill. And I decided that my project was going to become Enigmatus. It was going to be called Enigmatus. I was aware of how the light and the motion of the place changed how I saw things every day. In fact, within hours, what I was looking at could be different. And that was great. And that reminded me a bit of Monet and his constant working of one subject in different times of day, like the haystacks and a few other things that he did along those lines, where he was aware of the change in a short period of time. So that was
I think what you've done here, especially with the math behind 52 weeks in a year and 4 seasons, and you've multiplied that into 208 panels.
Yeah.
What you've done is capture the rhythm, the rhythm of this place.
Yeah.
Not just the 360-degree view of the land, but also the 360-degree trip around the sun. You've really captured what this place means in place and time.
Yes. Yes.